I know a lot of jokes about umbrellas, but they usually go over people's heads.
Ooh. Well.
I'm Claire.
And I'm Vince.
And this is Friends of Legend! Welcome to Friends of Legend, where we're welcoming magical creatures into our hearts, 1 week at a time.
And into our homes, if we can.
This week, I have a really exciting and cute friend that we're going to try to make. It's called the Kasa-Obake.
Very interesting. Tell me more.
So the Kasa-Obake is a Japanese creature. They're otherwise known as the Kasa-Obake, the Kasa-Bake, or the Kasa-Kozo. And please forgive me if I'm mispronouncing any of that, it's very likely. The Kasa part means umbrella in Japanese, and the Obake means ghost.
Fun, so it's an umbrella ghost.
Yes, exactly, the umbrella ghost. And they have a pretty standard appearance. These are parasols or other umbrellas that have gained a soul, and usually they are found with one big eye in the middle like a cyclops. They'll usually have a long, coiled tongue that they shoot out at you.
It's supposed to be the umbrella handle?
The tongue is in the middle of the umbrella panel.
Oh, so like the umbrella part of the umbrella itself?
Yes, but then the handle extends into a foot. It could be clawed, or sometimes it's a human-like foot wearing a wooden sandal. Sometimes they sometimes they have arms. Sometimes they have two legs, but usually it's just the one leg that they hop wildly around on.
I'm imagining like a funny little flamingo demon.
Oh yeah, it's really cute actually. Y'all should definitely look up a picture of the Kasa-Obake, and it's Kasa-Obake. But you probably know that since you clicked on this episode title. But anyway, the Kasa-Obake is a type of tsukumogami, which means a household object that has turned into a yokai, or a ghost.
So, how does a household object become haunted?
Usually, it's after they have reached their 100th birthday. So, it's commonly perceived that the tsukumogami become haunted after being abandoned and left to reach 100 years of age. But luckily for us, the Kasa-Obake are harmless little guys. They haunt humans, but not in a dangerous way.
That's good. I'm glad they're not bitter about growing old all alone.
Yeah, I mean, there are lots of umbrellas out there in the world, so what I'm hoping is that they have a lot of friends that they can hop around and find and meet for little umbrella parties. But yeah, that's kind of the idea, is that they've been left to, kind of sit in a closet or in someone's basement, not enjoying the fresh air and rain, and they become animated after so long, and they get their kicks out of hopping around and scaring people. So I feel like to prevent your umbrella from becoming animated, from gaining a soul, you want to sort of pass it down to other generations and keep it in use. But it wouldn't be so bad if we did have more Kasa-Obake in the world.
But you said that they like to scare people. How do they scare people?
Their favorite method of scaring people is by sneaking up on them and licking them with their big slobbery tongue.
Oh no.
Which it's not dangerous, it's not poisonous, but it is icky sticky. So that's really the worst thing they do.
That's good. It's a lot more benign than what I was picturing, this sort of ghostly umbrella with a long tongue. We'd recently been watching the newest It movies, and there's a lot of weird tongue stuff.
Yeah. There's no teeth involved.
That's good.
So
nobody likes teeth.
No, it's not like Pennywise in that respect. You don't have the jaws. It's just it's a fun tongue. It kind of reminds me of the Pokemon Licky Tongue, who is what is it?
A fat little chameleon.
Yeah, like a fat little chameleon, and he's got this giant slobbery tongue, and he just uses it to greet people and say hello, and that's kind of what the Kasa-Obake does.
Just that, but an umbrella with one eye.
Mm-hmm. So they're not often seen in person, which is kind of funny. I'm wondering if they mostly hang out in abandoned houses, and perhaps when an odd realtor comes by to scope out the place or to show it to prospective buyers, that's when they make their appearance and hop out of a closet.
So they're not actively trying to insinuate themselves in people's lives, like a sort of mimic hiding out in the umbrella closet of someone who lives in a place?
Yeah, not necessarily. And especially if you own the umbrella, you're probably going to use it. Now, typically the Kasa-Obake are old Chinese oiled paper umbrellas. So there have definitely been modern advances on the umbrella tool. So it's not surprising that these oiled paper umbrellas have been the ones that are left behind. But honestly, it's probably considered a relic after a certain point and not in use, and probably not in someone's household ready to see the light of day.
That would make sense to me. So it sounds like they would be pretty fragile. Do they still have the same sort of fragility of a common umbrella of that time, or do they get fortified by the spirit?
They are still pretty fragile, yes. There are some variants of the Kasa-Obake that have the wear and tear and the rips and the holes, and they tend to be a little spookier than our one-eyed hopping friends. And those variants are often seen as an omen of bad weather coming. If you see an animated, holy umbrella floating in the air, it's a bad sign.
You'd think that those ones would want to stay inside if they're so beat. So here's another thing I just thought of. Can they talk or understand speech, or do they just kind of wander around and lick?
No one's heard them speaking or really doing anything other than just popping out and spooking, and then they kind of recede to where they like to sleep. They probably have their own umbrella language amongst themselves, which I like to imagine. It's kind of a sloppy sounding language. Yeah.
Some guttural slops and umbrella flaps.
Mm-hmm. That's so cute. But they don't really speak or eat anything. Like I said, they're ghosts, so they kind of just live a very simple life, and they don't require much. But what I do think they would really enjoy is making new friends, because the reason that they're animated to begin with is because they've been left alone for 100 years, or probably a little bit less.
That's wicked sad.
So, I'm hoping that we can travel to Japan one day and find a Kasa-Obake, or a few. And they'll already have souls in them, but I don't think it's too late to give them a happy life. We can still take them outside and bring them into a little rainfall and liven them up a bit.
Yeah, but it's not going to be one of those things like with typical Western ghost folklore where when you when you give it that thing it lacks, its spirit leaves, and then you just have a common umbrella, right?
No, it doesn't happen that way with these fellas. They retain their spirit, but I can't guarantee they're going to do the traditional umbrella functions of opening and closing at will, necessarily, because they have their own free will. So that is one thing to consider if you want to take a Kasa-Obake into your home. You might not be able to use it as you want to.
Gotta respect its newfound body.
Oh yeah, but I think they would be really fun little friends to just have around and keep you company.
Definitely. I can't remember if you had said this already, but do they congregate in groups at all, or are they pretty much just solitary?
So people don't see them congregating in groups very often, but let's say there's an abandoned warehouse of parasols. If that building is around for over a century and not uprooted, then you're gonna have a big village of Kasa-Obake, and I gotta say, I probably wouldn't want to go into that situation alone. That sounds really scary, to be suddenly swarmed by licky tongues.
Yeah, I'm imagining opening the door to that warehouse would be like a cross between bats coming out of a cave or kangaroos.
Yeah.
Lots of flapping and hopping.
Oh yeah. But they are harmless little friends. They are a little bit angry usually that they have been left alone by humankind, but they're not mean-spirited, and I can definitely appreciate that.
That's very good. So another thing that I had thought of, obviously the first thing they want to do when they see a person is scare them.
Yeah.
But what happens next? Do they go run away and giggle? Do they stick around? Do they...
Usually they just kind of hop away, and God, I would love to hear the cackling and the slurpy noises that they would make after that. They're cheeky little guys. I mean, really all they do all day is either rest or pop out and entertain themselves by freaking people out. So I like to think that they have to go back to their hiding place to scare the next person.
Okay. Well, I mean, it sounds a little sad, almost. Hopefully in befriending them, we can give them a little more variety.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can definitely see how having a Kasa-Obake in your home would be a fun time, especially if you have kids, and it can hop around with them. But we just don't know a whole lot about what they do when they're not spooking people, because they tend to be reclusive. But I hope we can change that, at least with some of them, if they want to, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to push them into being in the light of day if they don't want to be, but it could be fun to find out what they desire.
Definitely. So when a Kasa-Obake is taking a little umbrella nap, is it easy to tell apart from a common umbrella, or do all of its features kind of just go inert?
No, it certainly should be obvious that it is an unusual umbrella. Their one eye will probably be closed if it's taking a nap, but it still is probably wearing a wooden sandal or has a human foot. So you might think it's some funky antique, but I mean, as soon as you pick that bad boy up, it's gonna be shaken to life, and you're gonna figure out sooner or later.
I bet they snore too.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
So, would you say that the best way to become friends with a Kasa-Obake is to let it get you the first time?
I would say so. You definitely want to give them the glory of scaring you. You know, like when you go into a haunted house and there are monsters jumping out at you, they don't really like the people who say, huh, fun, you didn't faze me at all. No, play along. Really show that you're frightened, and maybe laugh it off with them, and they're gonna laugh it off with you, and just have a conversation. Ask if it wants to go outside. I see some rain clouds. Maybe this is your day. What do you say, buddy? But
that sounds good.
Yeah, treat it like a friend.
I guess you probably have to act fast because it's probably going to want to hop away after it's gotten its kicks.
Yeah, you don't want to grab at it. Just, talk to it and treat it like the animate object it is, It is a tool, or it once was, but you have to still pay it the proper respects.
That makes sense to me. I think it would definitely be pleasant to have that kind of playfulness in your home.
Absolutely.
As long as you're not someone who has like a heart condition.
Oh no, yeah. Okay. So for the elderly, or for those that do have heart conditions, or fainting spells, please remember to use your umbrella often. Nope, none of that poncho business.
Yeah.
You gotta use your umbrella, or you're gonna end up with a Kasa-Obake.
Or if you inherit a super old umbrella, make sure that it's not more than 100 years old, or start using it if it isn't more than 100 years old to prevent this little shock.
Precisely.
Perhaps as a disclaimer, maybe don't intentionally abandon your objects to try to force the Kasa-Obake spirit into them, because it seems a little abusive. But if you do come across one, you could be in for a friendly treat.
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't intentionally abandon this household object. And the other idea is that the Kasa-Obake kind of evoke this lesson that you should use everything that you own and not buy things willy-nilly. Waste not, right? And you don't want to buy and just stick all these extra umbrellas in your closet and forget about all of them.
No, because then you'll be covered in tongues.
Exactly.
Covered, just riddled with tongues.
Oh my gosh, so much slobber. So something fun that I found out is that the Kasa-Obake is featured in a lot of video games. It's very popular as a cameo, especially not usually the protagonist of games, but you can find Kasa-Obake in some games such as Super Mario Land 2, Kirby's Dream Land 2 and 3, and then there are a lot more Japanese inspired, not that Nintendo isn't Japanese, but you can find Kasa-Obake in Demon's World, Legend of the Mystical Ninja. There's some movies from the 60s called Yokai Monsters, and they're pretty campy and look a lot of fun. But the Kasa-Obake has such a distinctive appearance, and a lot of people like to draw them and put them in their animes, and they're just a lot of fun. So I'm hoping we can bring a little more awareness to the Western world, especially where we might not see as many around here. But they're really fun little guys, and I can't wait to meet one.
I would say the same. Between the time that you described the appearance and the time that you described the behavior, my desire to see one has increased significantly.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Okay, so now I think it's time to give the Kasa-Obake our rating. So if you're new to the show, we have 4 tiers of sort of rating how easy it is to become friends with different magical creatures. So I'll start. The first tier is friend-shaped, and that means that this creature is very easy to become friends with. They're not dangerous at all. They like the companionship, and they're not going to do anything to hurt you.
So then the next one up from there is cheeky friend. They're not necessarily hard to befriend, but befriending them comes with some added thrills and spills. Not necessarily anything dangerous, but certainly some annoyances and hijinks will ensue.
And then we've got the spicy friend. And that is a creature who is not necessarily going to be a lethal weapon, but they could do some harm, and you want to approach with caution and just be aware that they like their space and they might pull one over on you.
And last in the tiers is not a friend yet. These are beings that don't have any recorded companionships with humans. They are generally hostile, and most contacts result in injury or death, unfortunately.
Yeah. So I would say that the Kasa-Obake is a cheeky friend.
Yeah, I'd actually put the Kasa-Obake somewhere between friend-shaped and cheeky friend, because it sounds like after that initial spoopage, you're not really in for very much in the way of mischief.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of people like when their big dogs give them a big slobbery kiss. What's the difference with the Kasa-Obake?
Not knowing that it's coming, probably.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. Yeah, they're not going to do anything bad to you. Welcome them into your lives. Like Vince said, don't intentionally abandon your household objects to put a soul in one. But if you do happen to find one, give it a good home, or at least offer it one.
Yeah, give it that sense of belonging that it didn't have when it was a common object. I think that's only fair.
Well, thank you so much for listening to our episode about the Kasa-Obake.
Yeah, it was great to have you. I certainly learned a lot.
Oh, yeah. And there are lots of ways that you can get in touch with us if you had any other thoughts that you wanted to share about the Kasa-Obake or other umbrella yokai. We have a Facebook page. It's facebook.com/Friends of Legend. And we post there multiple times a week about facts on our magical creatures. And follow us, ask us questions, leave us comments.
We also have a Twitter now. It's @FriendsOfLegend. We make regular posts about episodes that are upcoming or past, some extra information we found about some of our favorite creatures. We gladly accept any kind of requests for future episode topics, that kind of thing.
If you follow us on Twitter, then on Fridays, we're going to give you a little hint at what the following day's creature is going to be.
A portent of what's to come, you might say.
And by the time this episode is airing, we will have our official website up, which is super exciting. And that's going to be just simply friendsoflegend.com.
There you'll be able to find a lot of the same information that you can see on our social media sites, including links to those social media, as well as some about info, some contact pages, all sorts of fun content for you to absorb.
Yeah, just in a nice little clean website. So that'll be very concise. And, as always, we have our good old-fashioned email address, friendsoflegend@gmail.com. If you have any questions or comments, or just want to say hi to your old pals, Claire and Vince, then drop us a line.
And if you have been enjoying what you've been listening to, feel free to leave us a review on whichever podcast service you use, or perhaps subscribe to us on that very same podcast service. It does mean quite a lot to us.
It sure does. And we have new episodes up every Saturday. So be sure to subscribe to us so that you can get updates on when those episodes are posted.
Yeah, so you can get introduced to another fun creature.
Thank you again so much for listening to us. And remember, when it comes to Friends of Legend, charm them.
Do not harm them.